Hello, everybody, and welcome to Golden Activations. My name is Cathy Baumann. I am an embodiment guide who is friends with Lois here. I am here today to interview Lois and find out more about how this channel got created and all of her beautiful creations, really, golden activations, and to just talk and chat a bit. I did an interview with Lois last year, about a year ago, I'd say. And so when we connected, she invited me back on the show, and I asked her if I could actually interview her because I don't know this backstory or how this all came to be. And she has a beautiful website and does incredibly beautiful work. Before I even go into it, I will say that the night before I was contacted by Lois and invited to this channel, I had a visit from Yeshua who said, "Hey, Cathy, are you willing to go a little bit more mainstream? Would you be open to doing something a little different?" And I was like, well, what would that be? And then I went, never mind. Yes, the answer is yes. When you get an invitation like that, you just say, yeah. And then I got the message the next morning. It was like absolute divine synchronicity. And I'll say, regardless of how it came about, the feeling of it, when you get an opportunity, an invitation, something new in your life that is aligned, it just feels beautiful, sweet, light, bright. It's like everything is 100% yes. And that's how I felt. So, of course, we had a lovely chat and it was just beautiful. And I really love connecting with Lois. So today I get to be the interviewer. So I'll just go right ahead and apologize to everybody right off the bat. This is my first time doing an interview. So I'm sure it'll be a little bit of a hack job, but I think we'll figure it out. So Lois, thank you for being here today on your channel. And I'm just going to read a little bit from your bio, and then we can jump right into it, just to start with a nice introduction. All right. So Lois is an Ascension Guide, star being, and crystalline guardian. She works within the light of the Akashic field and brings through the light intelligence to be shared in this now. She works as a guide to support and assist others to come into the awareness of their own sacred heart. I love that. She has worked within the fields of energy and crystalline light for many years now, bringing everything that she has come to remember together to share and assist others. And I especially love this and want to ask you about this later because this is where it all comes home into our unique expression. So, Lois works with the Andara crystals, the Akashic fields, and offers one-to-one sessions and courses as well as ascension support. She creates transmissions, meditations, blessings, and shares her own wisdom on her YouTube channel right here, Golden Activations. She records conversations with other light keepers around the planet and shares these to uplift, inspire, support, and nourish others on the same journey of ascension, which I must say I highly appreciate because it was websites, YouTube channels like this that were, I'll say, my life, my breath, my air for so many years. Her work can also be found as podcasts on Podbean, Spotify, and Apple, all under Golden Activations, and everything that is created is to support and assist the elevation of our consciousness. Wow, that's just awesome, Lois. So I'm like wowed by everything that you do. And as we were just having a chat before we started recording, you mentioned about, making your website and making the YouTube channel. And I've been through kind of the same journey from 0 point to building everything from a brand new foundation of that inner voice, that connection to our inner heart. So my question for you is if you would share with us a little bit, I'm curious more of how you got here, how you came into awakening, as much as you want to share about that, and how that part of the journey came about for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's such a delight to be able to connect with you. And this is really feeling like a beautiful co-creation and collaboration. So thank you. And it's really interesting because I knew, it's my turn now to share from my own experience. What sort of parts are lighting up to be shared, because it's always a joy for me to listen to others. So it's been interesting to see again and to look again at what areas of my earlier experiences are lighting up to be shared. And so I was brought up in Wales, a really rural area of North Wales. And it was a really magical upbringing in nature and just lots of freedom and connection with nature as I was growing up. And also what I was noticing was there was lots of movement as well. So I was born and brought up in a tiny, tiny little village in a sort of mountainous area up in North Wales called Park, and it was a tiny, tiny place. And then when I was about 4 or 5, we moved to another little place closer to the town. And then we moved again later into the town. And this all happened between the ages of being born and about 5 years old. So with a lots of little movements, which I find interesting because it brings things together for me later, because there's been lots of movement in my life. And then as a teenager, moving from that small town in North Wales to the capital city, which was a big move and expansion again. And so later in life now, there has been lots of movement, lots of travel on my own, and then as a family as well, moving around the planet to different places to experience different places. And I feel that the origin of that began when I was young, a pattern of being able to move and expand and settle and come to a home space inside in various places, in a sense. And then, so there was lots of magic in my childhood, very rural, playing outside, lots of imagination, lots of creation, playing in the fairy realm and being inspired. But also I remember having very visual dreams from a very, very young age. And these dreams were always a form of communication, sort of. There was this awareness, it was another world that I was entering in my dream state as a child that would bring some sort of support or comfort or insight. And one of those earliest dreams for me, I must have been about 6 or 7. And this dream was about me and my primary school friends swimming in the sea, and we were all dressed in our deep dive costumes and masks and everything. And we were swimming on the surface of the sea. And then I begin to dive deeper. So I leave my friends behind and I go deeper until I reach the bottom of the sea. And I remember really vividly these plants, these seaweeds, these greenery at the bottom of the sea, moving and waving in the water. And then I move through it and they part, and there is my child's perception of God. And he's sitting on the bottom of the sea, on the sand, calm, beautiful, beaming, white hair moving in the water. and this beard, and he's holding a shell in his hands. And as a child, there's just this, there's no fear, it's just beautiful. So I go to him, and the shell opens and there's a little pearl inside. And he gives me the pearl, and then I wake up. And even then, I remember it was really profound, because I felt, I've met God, I've seen God, and he's given me a pearl.
Yeah.
And later, as we expand in our awareness and come to deeper remembrances, it's held such a beautiful little message for me all along, that it's about something much deeper for me here in this experience, and that I was searching for something much deeper, that it was this pearl, and today, this pearl from within us, I suppose, our wholeness, our purity, our divinity. So it's always, that dream has always stayed there with me. And also, I was thinking about, there have been certain experiences in my earlier years that today I can, with greater clarity and understanding, understand why these occurrences took place. And so the first experience was when I must have been about 2 or 2.5, very, very young, in a pram, and my mother had taken me to the local supermarket. And then this woman passes by, and she's in a fur coat. And my mother sees me seeing this, and then she sees the reaction. I start to cry uncontrollably.
Yeah.
So I'm 2.5. Nobody has sat me down to explain what that means.
How that happens?
No. So I remember her sort of embarrassment as well as a young mother when you have a child. It's just losing it in the supermarket as well. So she took me out, and she talked about that many years later, because it was something that she noticed, that there was, she saw what I saw and the reaction of it. So, and she sort of understood that there was something deeper happening, in a way, a deeper understanding of something. And I remember the pain of seeing that. And today is more of an understanding for me to see why, because it was one of a series of experiences of me wishing to witness separation and the expression of separation in this reality, or in this frequency, if you like.
Yeah.
So to witness the separation of nature and the animal kingdom and us, and to see it visually in that way and to understand it. Oh, so this is separation in one way, Mm-hmm. And then came another experience when I was about 14. There was another one before that, but I'll come back to that. And when I was about 14, I was still really, you could say, naive, innocent to the ways of the world and to the ways of this frequency bandwidth. And a friend gave me a book called Cry Freedom. And it's a book about the height of apartheid in South Africa. And it is the story of Steve Biko, who was a gentleman who experienced that apartheid, and even the word apart, separation again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And so I read this book, and it had a profound shake-up. And then I went to see the movie, and the movie it felt like a shattering inside, although it wasn't a true shattering, but it did feel like a shattering, an echo of a shattering. Again, coming to see the pain of this separation between peoples and beings, and the way that we are able to create that separation. So that was also really profound to come to see, okay, so this happens too. This happened too.
Yeah.
And then, because for me, I feel that there are sort of timestamps in our journey, in a way, that open a Pandora's box for us to start to delve into something on a much deeper level. Yes. And so when we're young, there are sort of master numbers like the age of 11, the age of 13. And I can see it with my own children now too. This time when it's like a soul time for things their Pandora's box to open, to start to dive deeper into something. And so it was no coincidence that my parents separated when I was 13. And again, sort of a shake-up, a seeming shake-up in my foundations, that my family was separated again, literally the masculine, the feminine, and the child.
Right.
So at the time, so there was these three huge experiences, but I'm going to balance that with other deep experiences that came in between as well, which were sort of me witnessing separation and the purposes of that, in a way, as I come to see it again now. In between, experiences of huge heart expansions. And even though at the time, as a child, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, it's my heart opening, and I'm just feeling that immense love and connection. I just felt it to be, there was something divine and holy about these experiences for me in between those experiences. And so the first one came when I was, again, really young, really young, in Bala, in this town in North Wales. And I think a friend took me to this little hidden chapel. It was a Catholic chapel behind the main road. And there was only one big main road in this town. And you had to go through this corridor to come to the little chapel behind. And so it was a big adventure to go and discover something new. And then I had this huge experience just as I was going through the corridor, where my heart, now I understand, expanded. And I just felt this immense love, the waves of love just pouring through.
Wow.
But at the time, I felt something's happening in the corridor. This corridor is amazing. Oh my God,
were you in the church?
What is this? And then going to the church, and the church was just beautiful, a really tiny, old little Catholic place. The care and the love that was put into just where everything was placed. And as a child, the colour, just this amazingness,
Yeah.
So then I began to, as a child, I'd go back wanting the same feeling. Sometimes I'd get the feeling, sometimes I wouldn't get the feeling. And I just was fixated on, it's the corridor, something happens in the corridor.
Right.
Until I started to remind myself of the feeling I got in the corridor. And then started the activation again. But I would always go to the setting to assist to get back to that same feeling. So it started an understanding of playing with energy inside and coming to understand, it's you can make that feeling happen again when you just take yourself into that remembrance of what you experienced.
Yeah.
So So that was fascinating for me. And then I remember after my parents separated, being in my sister's bedroom, and 13, 14 now. And I remember visually seeing my mother was in the corridor. She was busy probably with getting some clothes to take the washing. And then my sister was pottering about on her bed, and I was just standing in the room. And then this expansion happened again, and this love happened again. And I don't
it just explodes out of you when it
exploded. And it was like, now it's just like the heart wants to expand more. But it was also like, I got to see I got to feel painful I got to feel the painful separation, but also this reminder, it's just love. It's just love. And love is always there in between those experiences.
Right. Yeah.
And so today, it's so much clearer for me to understand that I wished to experience various forms of separation, and especially the shattering of the family unit and build, if you like, because part of my journey is to come into union, to bring those parts together, and that it's inside, and that it's for me to bring it into union, or to bring myself into union. And we hear a lot about, because we are working in the field of embodiment.
Yeah, Ascension, you called it on your website.
Yes,
I call it embodiment. We're bringing it in.
Yes.
Yes.
So it's we hear, you come into your divine masculine, you come into your divine feminine.
Yeah.
And so for me, coming to realize there was never really any separation. It was my parents allowing me to see visually this illusion of separation happening in my reality to urge me to begin this process of coming into separation, that it was a divine gift. But at the time, I played in victimhood.
Well, yeah, we don't see it that way at the time usually.
Right. And then the Pandora box opens, and then so many programs come up to be witnessed and to be played out. So there was, lack consciousness, scarcity consciousness. There was lots of, wonderful gifts to start to unravel, in a sense, in my experience, So there were these experiences, and so it's been really this feeling of never feeling truly alone either. Although there's been times when the universe has made me be alone at various times. So friends falling away, situations where you're truly, because I was so willing to let myself go, to be something else for others, or to blend in, to please, to all those things.
Yep. And that all has to go.
That all has to go. And that's been a big and long journey for me. So, and so there's this word that's kept coming up into my reality, especially of late, and it's called, many people will have heard this word. It's called shalom. It's an ancient Hebrew word, shalom, shalom. And many may feel it means peace or harmony.
Oh, okay.
But
like Shanti, Om Shanti,
yes,
Shanti.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But I heard this gentleman recently speak, and he shared the deeper meaning of this ancient word. And he explained it as it's the coming together of all the elements and components of creation in total perfection.
Ooh.
And so for me, that's part of my journey, my inner journey of coming in to bring these pieces back together within me, to come to embody the feminine in her most harmonized frequencies, and the divine masculine in its most harmonized frequencies. And so at this time, I'm moving into the divine masculine. This is a new expanse and frequency.
That can be intense.
That's huge. And I'll just share here. I had a wonderful experience this week.
Yeah.
A few of my friends here in Singapore invited me to go and see some sacred temples here. And of course, little Lois, the ego Lois, had ideas. Yes, it's Kuan Yin Temple. That's the one I want to go and see, Kuan Yin. And then the suggestion, let's try and fit another one in too. Let's try and fit the Buddha temple too. Okay, yes. But it's Kuan Yin that I really want to go and experience. And so we go and see the Kuan Yin temple, and it's absolutely beautiful. And the compassion, and it's just what you would wish to experience.
So just out of curiosity, and I do have Kuan Yin visit. I have various whoever visit on my events, and I don't always know. It's whoever joins what they need. Somebody, and so last Tuesday or Monday, Kuan Yin was the predominant energy, that came through. So when you walk into this temple, I've never been to sacred sites. That hasn't been like my journey. So you really could feel the compassion there.
Yes, inside. Yeah. Because now I find it so interesting, because the locals go to this temple if they have a question and they want this question to be answered. So they go. And now we come to understand we are walking temples, and we are here to go so deep inside that we excavate these frequencies, these ascended aspects inside. So to having that awareness going in, and then that connection. So it's inside, you're feeling inside her frequencies in you, the Divine Mother. And so it was just, floating in that frequency. And it's like, it's a portal. It's easier in a beautiful setting to allow that portal to open and to experience that.
Right. It's so fortified is the way I see it. It's just got so much.
The art, it was just beautiful. And then the surprise and the magic came in the Buddha temple for me. It was unexpected. And once I came into this, it was like, this was a new expanse and frequency.
A new frequency, kind of?
Yes. Yeah. And it was all golden. It was vast. And for me, because the masculine has been something I've been avoiding or evading,
like most people I know,
because the Kuan Yin divine feminine is equally infinite and profound and compassionate. But in my disharmony of frequency, it's the coming in of this new divine masculine frequency to start to work in that. And there was this room that they took us into, and I was so blessed to have one of the friends was a practicing Buddhist, and she had things that she wanted to show me and to speak about, and it all held a deep resonance.
Mm.
But one of the most profound things that happened was going into this tiny room, and there was just a little blurb outside, nothing too obvious, just saying this body of Buddha had crystallized. And so in the cremation of the body, little remnants were left behind, which wouldn't have been the case possibly if his body was carbon-based. So we speak about this transformation that we've heard of that's happening inside, this alchemy that's occurring within us at this time, because we're up-leveling again and again and again. And so the body comes with us, and that we are ascending with the body, and we're transforming the body in the wake of this process, and that it's very real and it's very physical.
Right.
And that this body is transforming from a carbon-based body to navigate in a denser frequency to a lighter body. We could say, as Buddhists often mention, the rainbow body. And this has greater relevance to the things that I saw in that beautiful little room, because the Buddha left behind little gifts, and the people who had gone to pick the remnants up and to keep them for sacred safekeeping, because it's a tradition with little relics to keep them and to place them in sacred places, and all these things. And his brain had been completely crystallized.
Wow.
And these tiny little pearls of crystals were left behind.
The pearl.
In all sorts of colours. They were opalescent, they were clear. Some of them were different, various rainbow blues, indigos, light turquoise. Some of them were various shades of greens. And I'm in shock.
How physical and literal it all is.
It all is. And how, I'm still like, because we know there's a transformation happening inside of us, but we can't see it. And here was this amazing being. His heart had left little tiny pearls of gold crystals. They were golden.
Wow.
And his blood, tiny, tiny little crystals of rose gold. And, the crystals within me fully activated to that visual experience.
Wow.
And I was still reverberating from that. And I can also share here that there came, another form of separation for me, I've come to see, is when we understand something intellectually, but we haven't fully embodied that understanding.
It's all conceptual.
Inside. Yeah. We think, I got it, understand it.
Right.
And there's absolute disconnect with, because
your actions, your words, the way you live, the way you trust or don't trust or flow with life. Yes.
And that we think that if we spout the right intellect of what we understand,
affirmations,
that we understand. But and
it sounds like that when somebody's speaking from the mind. Do you find that when somebody's speaking from the mind, it's like a regurgitation of a file, and when you're speaking from an embodied knowingness and experience, it's like, whoa.
So the coming out of that experience for me, and it's still reverberating, and
I can feel it.
It's just beautiful. And this epiphany, which is the body understanding, not the head. The head has heard and said many times, you have to love yourself. You have to come into love. You have to But this was like a full, to see how, but for me, there have been many, many, many years of hatred towards the self. I can say hatred, because it's a especially with trying to control the body. Especially when I was younger, controlling the body, the size, the way it should look, the way it should be presented, all of that. And that's been a huge, huge program. I feel that's only truly being addressed now in this. Lois, you have to feel that peace and that love for yourself from every cell of your being and really feeling it,
regardless of how you look.
Yeah. And then that's been that peace.
Wow.
Really being able to let that go completely. So now we can truly focus on other stuff. So it's been beautiful. So, thank you for letting me share that, because the Buddha experience was profound for me, and just comes into everything, everything that we are here to experience at this time.
Totally. I love how your analogies of separation all came together in the Pearl. So just out of curiosity, with the Buddha, the thing you were feeling, so how would you describe it and that unique different frequency?
It felt like a whole new build, like a whole new golden build structure. And it was solid, and because the masculine for me in my experience has been a weak masculine. Because it was a weak masculine within myself, I got this was mirrored in various ways. And so the feminine is interesting too in my experience, because the reflection of the feminine in my experience was completely distorted in many ways as well.
Right.
So
both.
Yes. Yeah. So this divine masculine Buddha frequency was a whole new structure that was solid, that was strong, that it was a new inner dependence within myself, that it's not because I've had relationships of interdependence. So coming to inner independence within my own column, and coming to understand, the power of that, of this being able to hold that frequency and that harmony inside, and how powerful, and the strength of that divine masculine when you come into it. And this space, it feels like this huge expansive space that now can be built upon, because it's a new foundation. Inside,
solid foundation. That's
because I've created structures in the past that were unconscious. They were disharmony. So the harmony, the patterns of perfection, you can say, were the total opposites, but we don't see that, we don't understand that at the time. And then the coming to see all of that, and then the collapse of those structures. So this felt, this is beautiful.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, that's kind of when we started, I said about, rebuilding life from that 0 point. And it's like everything you build from that space without a bias, masculine, feminine, good, bad, right, wrong, trying to fix anything out there, because everything's in harmony actually when you see through the heart, through the eyes of the universe, right? It's all in its divine unraveling of separation, and separation, it just is, right? And I've talked to so many people that when embodying this masculine, there's so much judgment, anger, hate, blame, that they tend to reject those parts of themselves. And then, then we end up staying in a victim consciousness because we're not whole and solid and steady. And that energy carries us through so much, and it's, even though the feminine in and of itself is beautiful, I always say it's not like 50-50, it's like 100% and 100% when when we bring that all through.
Yes. And my universe has been allowing me to go back into looking at old ancient Welsh mythology, because there's a lot of beautiful stories in this lineage of history. And as a child, these stories were always told to us in school, or we'd go and see plays, adaptations of these stories in various forms. These stories are ancient, and like all world myths, hold really sort of sacred codes of knowledge in them. But over the years, I would just receive them in the frequency that they were told as a story, sort of knowing there's something deeper in there, but I just don't get it. I don't understand what's going on here, but I know there's some magic in there. So it's been really interesting to delve back into those stories again this time with greater clarity, and coming to sort of, in a way, decode some of the messages in them. And there is one particular, there are many, and there are many stories about sort of, because it speaks of the time, it's a goddess energy. So many of these stories speak about, again, we're speaking about the harmony coming into disharmony, because the word corruption implies somebody outside has done something to something, yet it's, for me, it's a collective choice of experiencing separation as a frequency. Yes. So then there will be echoes of that separation throughout for us to experience. So often, for example, I was called to look at what happened in Alexandria, for example. Alexandria, many moons ago, was this incredible library of wisdom and knowledge. And beings from all over the world would come to Alexandria to speak and connect with each other, to share wisdom and knowledge from their heritage, their lineages. So you would have Christians and Buddhists and Muslims, people from all walks of life coming together and feeling at home in Alexandria, sharing knowledge. And there were ancient texts in the library there that people would come and, to expand their knowledge and wisdom. So when this library was burnt or destroyed, and then came sort of warring frequencies and separation, and people no longer came to share and receive, and so there was not this ended. And it's just like a perfect reflection of the choice of separation, and also the I say taking away of wisdom, but it was us taking it away so that we could experience greater depth of separation. So there's many, in these ancient Welsh stories, there's so many, and I'll just speak briefly about Arianrhod. And Arianrhod, because also in the names, it's an old Welsh language with sounds, and you're using different parts of your mouth.
Yeah, I probably can't say it.
That's some languages don't use those sounds, you know.
Right.
So we've got all these guttural noises. So it's very can be very spitty.
Yeah.
And so Arianrhod is this, she represents this divine mother. She is the frequencies of harmony and purity, and her name translates to Arian. Arian means silver. Rhod, many have translated it to mean wheel, so silver wheel. And yes, for me, it feels more like a rudder on the back of a boat or a ship. I know it's the same thing, but somehow it feels more, I've got my hand on the rudder and I'm really literally in every movement choosing the direction I'm going. So I'm really the captain of my own ship here. So it gives us an idea of her frequency. And then in her story unfolds, because there is a masculine in this story who happens to be her brother, and he's a magician, and he's called Gwydion. And Gwydion is just this meddling magician. And it's so interesting how I come to view it in a different way now, because the story is told in a sense where you sort of have heroes, and the heroes are often the male characters, you know. And Gwydion is kind of supported because he's the one who's trying to help others. If they want something, he will do it to assist them, no matter what the consequences. But he's assisting the unconscious to get what they want and need. And it's not in the highest.
He's supporting his own egoic need to be a hero.
Yes. So I find it, I mean, the story itself is, like all these ancient myths, are long and windy, and there's so many parts to it. But Arianrhod essentially is speaking about, I find her extremely immense in frequency terms, because she's speaking about, she never yields from her frequency. She lives on a little island, and it's called Caer Arianrhod. And there's also this connection with, in Welsh, there's a star system. It's called Caer Arianrhod, which is in English the Corona Borealis, which is the crown.
Oh, yeah.
So it's wisdom, it's knowledge, it's divine connection and sight, because these beings, they're representing sort of archetypal but divine frequencies, you know. And
I think I'm familiar with them, actually.
Like a divine
in
time.
my own way.
Yes. And so there's Avalon frequencies in there, and there's connections with Greek myths as well, and seeing sort of correlations in those stories as well, you know. So major truths. But what I find most incredible about these myths is how they are, they're tackling cosmic forces. They're tackling the big stuff energetically, and telling us a little story, tiny little story, with putting little faces and characters into that cosmic force, if you like, so we can come to understand something a little differently. So there's deep magic in those realizations.
You had said before too, like about the Kuan Yin and the masters, and you know how these frequencies are not separate from us.
No,
I'm not Kuan Yin. I'm not, but they're not separate from us. They activate within us, and just like for me, it was Marvel movies and some other Greek mythology. I remember getting downloads years ago of all these different Greek words. I would Google them and read about but it was to me, it's archetypes that we are as a facet of all that is. It's like the more experience we get in a body through separation, we realize that we have played all of these roles in one way or another, right? In our own lives. Do you see that the same way I do?
Yes. And I so love this journey. I love the discovery of a new frequency, a new aspect, although we say new, it's just us returning to a frequency within us. So I could say it in a linear way, the gift of when we are able to enter a deeper space within the heart is us opening up these chambers, these caverns that have always been there, but we get to delve into them. And when one light being enters a domain that they have forgotten they ever held, there's a magic that occurs in the outer reality to reflect that. So, for example, when these ancient texts were discovered somewhere in outside of Jerusalem, or these sacred texts that are unearthed, for me, it's just a reflection of, there's another little light being somewhere on the planet that's gone deeper to retrieve their wisdom. So wisdom is returned. And for me, in my own experience, it's been, I can look at various frequencies that I've been playing in and then coming into new frequencies. So in the beginning of my awakening journey, everything was Pleiadian frequencies, big immersion into that, wanting to read and understand as much as I could, being an inner activation in itself to expand, to do the research. You're only excavating what you already know.
Yeah.
But it takes those actions and that focus, in a sense, to bring it out again.
Yeah, and to bring it into your life, into your relationships, your, like, literally, to me, it's about, so you activate this, right? Let me know if this is how you see this. And then it's like, you see we'll say the old option is here to act in an old way of separation. But then you have this new awareness, and it's like not choosing that old thing anymore and choosing the new thing. And you keep choosing the new thing, the joy, the fun, the freedom, the love, the compassion, whatever, rather than the fear and the separation and the control and manipulation or whatever that stuff was. And then you choose it again and again and again until this just goes away and this is your new normal and that's integrated. Is that how you bring these through and integrate them?
Yes. And it's happened for me in various ways. So every time there has been a frequency shift within me, I've literally been moved to another place or to, another part of the world.
Yes.
So to start again from a new frequency, all the beings that are connected to a certain frequency have gone, and there's a whole new setting now, a playground in that new frequency. So it's happened again and again. And also in that, I have labels on certain frequencies that I've experienced because it comes through like Arcturian, for example, an Arcturian immersion. And that took about 3 years of immense immersion in that frequency and experiencing that. But the label itself isn't really important. It's the same thing that you're speaking about. It's just an expansion of various awareness or embodiment that you're moving into from within yourself.
Yeah.
And then in Singapore, there's been many realizations here. It's been, in the beginning, it was this really soft, new pink frequency. It was similar to the Arcturian, but it was different. And then there's been sort of Egyptian clearings occurring as well, seeing ancient Egypt and the clearings away of that. And then it's changed again. And so the Buddha, for me, was a new activation again, you know. So I feel like it's just this playground of we're walking into. We are afforded the opportunity to walk into new frequencies within ourselves all the time. And then the play that you can do with that. So, for example, because we're coming into, the more that we're able to play, like when I was a child, and activating that love that I felt in the corridor before going into the church, starting to understand I can activate that, you know, myself. Don't have to physically go into that corridor.
Do you just choose it? I mean, so I just sometimes I just choose it. You just create it, like you just feel it, right? Is that how you experience that?
Yes. But sometimes, like these huge heart expansions when I was younger, sometimes it just catches you off guard.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
I didn't expect that Buddha experience.
Right.
But it was my universe moving us into it when it's time.
Yep. Yeah. But I also find that creating can be making a website, whatever, but it's like, you know, for myself at one point, everything became I experience a lot of silence now, just, you know, and it's just sort of like, you know, some days I'm walking, okay, what, you know, it's sort of where it's like, what do we want to play with now from this 0 point and then just choosing that frequency. You become it, you be it, you bring it through. It's like, let there be light, you know, just that instant. And it's not always that instant, right? Like there's times I remember, you know, playing with this and then, you know, still not feeling anything, you know. So when you're trying to recreate it, I can't say that it always works. But I do find when you bring it through in action, so play, that's probably one I could work on a little bit. I tend to be more focused, you know, and I had kind of the opposite. And that's probably why I connect with so many. And most people on this path tended to gear towards the feminine, right? You know, first.
Yes.
And then have that hard time bringing the masculine through. So the playtime is one that can be challenging for me, but so bringing this through, it's like just choosing those frequencies, and once you've embodied it, I also find that, you know, especially if I'm doing an event or something, what'll come through for me is more. It might be different ascended masters that I work with, but it's like it's a blending with me to help bring something through. That just happens spontaneously and can catch you off guard. So is that similar?
So
for
beautiful. You? Yes. And there were so many things going on there. Yes. It's also interesting when you're saying this, because too, we're continually elevating in a sense and then expanding. So that frequency that was needed at a particular point no longer is in resonance with you. And so you're continually, so like the Pleiadian experience in the beginning for me would often come through crystals. And through moldavite, especially in the beginning, it's a beautiful stone. And then, I mean, now if I'm to feel into the Pleiadian frequency, it's much more of a blue, radiant blue frequency. It's changed because the bandwidths of these frequencies are huge. And we might only sort of reach only just a little bit of it, and then
Yes.
we can go on infinitely forever to discover these capabilities,
Right.
these frequencies within us. So, and it was the same with crystals. You would outgrow certain crystals' frequencies, and you would, some pieces in the beginning, it just vibrated and you could get so, you
Right.
feel so
I
much.
remember that. Yes.
And then you hold the same piece maybe 2 years later, and it's just
I
like
don't
a
feel
storm.
anything when I hold crystals anymore at
Because
all.
your frequency has expanded.
I'm the crystal. Yes. Yes.
Yes, this is it.
Exactly.
So it's so fascinating. And then
So I was going to say, so what I'm perceiving as you're speaking is, okay, so I mean, I have awareness, not like memories, people, I remember when I first started hearing this stuff and people would say, oh, I have this, awareness. I would think that they remember it like a human does, but it's not the case. But I have awareness. I'm everywhere. I'm on every planet in every galaxy. I went through some years of galactic stuff and then more with the Ascended Master. We go through all these frequencies, like you're saying. And my big one was Syrian, my oversoul, the epitome of it. I'll say my ascended self is Syrian, or that I came here, So that was a big one for me when that came through. And it was very androgynous, feminine, but more an androgynous experience within my body, even like I cut my hair off. I always had long hair, and I just felt like, this is just a body. I'm not this body anyway, no more than I am that Syrian being's body or whatever, right?
Yes.
So it's like my perception of that, though, is you're speaking of the Pleiadian frequency shifting, and you have more clarity on this than I do. Like, I love how people have certain things they're so like clear about, where I'm like, oh, I don't have that level of sensitivity to these frequencies that you do to describe it this way. But my perception of that as you speak of it is that's you, because we're everywhere. I mean, ultimately, as the more we expand, it's like, oh, I'm everywhere, everything. I am that I am. I'm literally just one pinpoint of perception that is expanded through the all that is, because I am everything and nothing. We are a facet of all that is.
Yes.
And so would you say this is your Pleiadian self also ascending in frequencies also, as all of our selves are expanding simultaneously?
Oh, yes. I love that. And, you've brought so much in there. I heard, I don't know if you're aware of Amanda Lawrence. She's a beautiful light keeper, and she does these videos and sharings. And I just watched a bit of her recent video. She's speaking about dreaming and how her awareness has expanded to what you are speaking about. You are aware sort of the omnipresence, in a sense. That's where you're coming from. In a sense, the total opposite of where I'm coming from. I'm sort of moving through the play of the frequencies continually. And then there's this, and then there's this, and then there's this. You're coming from the other side, seeing the whole of it. And she was speaking about having just come to this new awareness that as created beings, we're dreaming our own realities. But she had come to a deep embodiment of seeing, but it's God's dream. It's all God's dream. And I'm just a little speck in that part of God's dream. So,
each has a different story in the same dream, though, right? It's the same dream through a gazillion different lenses.
Yes. And
not that anything I say can accurately really describe it, but
and you're speaking about, yes, because we are in continual service to the wholeness of our own like soul light, and beyond and beyond, and everything is affected and is elevated. And also, I can translate that in another really beautiful way that it showed itself recently for me to understand too. Because sometimes we can be immersed in our little experience.
Yeah, so totally.
And then this understanding, the deeper we go in this excavation, this elevation, this ascension that we are making, the profoundness of the ripples of that we might never see.
Yeah, our human self doesn't know what a big, huge thing we're doing.
And it was showing how we are leaving a true light legacy for those who follow.
Yes.
And not only for those who follow, but linearly of those who came before too, if we want to go in, but to understand the time is
because they're still expanding.
Yes. So then came these words of true generational wealth rippling out, true legacy, like this golden frequency in a sense that's been activated within us, and these gifts that we are opening up and enabling, making it easier for others to open if they choose.
We're creating new pathways
and
blueprints, whatever you want to call it, that are available for them to just, I can just do it. Where we were in those old patterns, which you could say neural pathways on the inside of our bodies, energy patterns, that we're creating this new little pattern, which seems like whacking, we're hacking down the weeds with our, the sickle with the corn. It's like we had to just whack through some really tough stuff to make this new felt like that moving the old energy, didn't it? At times, like even moving the body.
Yes. And it's like, okay, so we were the builders. We came in, we were the builders in that consciousness, hacking away. But then we become master builders.
Yeah,
because we are able to transcend or move through those bandwidths, frequencies now to offer up a new. I say new, but it's always there. But it's you come to embody it, and so you leave these gifts within your DNA, your ethereal, multi-dimensional DNA for others to access.
And embedded in the earth that we walk on, the places we walk into, it's like these frequencies are there now. Available.
You've just reminded me. I went to hear this wonderful lady speak many, many, many years ago. She was speaking about Mary Magdalene and the Essenes, and she had gone on many pilgrimages to various sacred spots and places that these beings were connected with, and the land. And she was felt called to get hold of different pieces of rocks and stones from that land, and she brought it to the meeting, and then she invited everybody to go and hold different pieces at the end. And I tell you, I got to go and I held the piece, and it vibrated. It was absolutely beautiful. And she was explaining this energy was being, just penetrating the earth, and it affects everything. It was just, beautiful, beautiful. So it's just a reminder, especially when we have those challenging days, maybe, or, because on this journey there are these, absolute expansions, but there are contractions too.
Yep. Back and forth, exactly.
Yes. Yep. But one thing that I always tell myself is you've never fallen back to the old frequencies, just maybe just a little,
it goes like this, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yes.
It just keeps doing that. Well, it's funny what you said in the beginning about the shatterings, the heartbreaks. And that was the thing that kind of it triggered for me, is like, still for me, it's like I have these big expansions. It's like whoosh. And then it's like I still have that, you have that contraction then and that integration. And it's like it's gotten so much easier, faster. I mean, things that took years before, it's just like, now you just zoom through it, because it's like after so long, we have this overview, right? That this is just kind of how it goes, and we can kind of float through those things. But I love what you shared, because I like to collect rocks. Like when I go places, I'm like a rock collector. And I mean, so I would have rocks from all over all the time. And every time I moved, I would like leave them as gifts, um, at my house or at apartment, or, and then I bring them I've done some yoga things with kids where I give them each a rock to keep, and some are from Hawaii, whatever. But so that story's just like, I'm like, whoa. So very cool. Yes. So, how would you say then, one thing I wanted to come back to, because I just love this. I love that we're on the same page with all this and we have different experiences of it. And what you said about, there's those days, moments, times. I mean, we're working through heavy layers of conditioning, of programming, like laying these new blueprints is not, it's not for the faint of heart. It is like, the ego or the mass consciousness, whatever you want to call it, the old energy has a gravity, and it will do everything to pull you back, to convince you otherwise, to stop moving forward. To that extent, it knows it's dying, it's missing some energy, it's missing your feeding it when you go to create something new, and you get all that grasping that comes in. So I'm sure everybody can relate to that, those moments that you're like, you go through a big expansion, hallelujah. And then, there's another day or moment where it's like, what am I doing? I've screwed everything up. How did my life get like this? I mean, I've moved a lot like you, and what is all happening? Or, suddenly I don't think I have anything understood. Yesterday, I thought I could see everything so clearly, so it's so extreme. So I'm curious about what your thing about taking everything you've learned, and all your experiences, because that's where we gained all this wisdom. And I perceive it like I know I incarnated, choosing a family that would give me those experiences of separation, because otherwise there'd be no motivation to wake up, right? It's in that suffering sometimes that you need that pearl. You need to have that deeper connection 24/7, where no matter what, all is well. So how have you brought your stuff together, with what you now share, what you create, how you live? Because how we live and how we create becomes one and the same. What we share, we live it. That's the way this goes. So what is the core things that you live by and that you have brought together to share with others?
It's that alignment sort of happens naturally so my job is to focus on the rebuild inside, the connection inside, and to expand that. And it's continually shifting and changing. And then sort of automatically the reality will show the areas that are no longer in alignment. And that's tough, because there's areas there that I wanted to hold on to. But it's part of this to be willing to let go, because there's always a deeper expanse that comes in from that. So, for example, now my partnership with my husband is coming to an end.
Wow.
And but through this work, this inner work that we do, and the community of like-minded souls that have already gone through this experience, has afforded, so much, So now it's happening in a really compassionate way, a really graceful way, a way of appreciating each soul's participation in me coming to a deeper understanding of many things, and being willing to let that go because it no longer serves where I'm at within myself now. It's no longer aligning. Yep. It's time to honor contracts and to be willing to let them go. And then, so new changes. So I'm moving back home to Wales soon.
Wow. Well, congratulations.
Thank you so much.
On all of it. I mean, I'm divorced and, so I know that's an intense thing to go through, but congratulations on your evolution because it's happening.
Thank you. And thank you for saying that, because there may be some who, I'm so sorry. It's so,
I'm not sorry for you.
That frequency, yes. Yeah. It's not. It's
I have compassion because I know it's tough, but you got this.
Be excited because it's me breaking out of something old within myself to really free up into something new, that's better aligned. So it's beautiful in all ways. And once that was unfolding, and everybody was able to see what they wish to experience now and take back control of their own lives. It's really beautiful. It's a really beautiful process. So there's that. So there's this making those changes in your own, because we can talk the talk, but we're here to really walk the talk.
Where the rubber meets the road. That's when you integrate it.
Yes. So there's that. And then, but work, like my life frequency, let's say this then, is continually changing, and there's always new ways of working. So in the beginning, I would work a lot with, and still do work a lot with Andaras. Andara crystals have really brought in a deeper expansion for me, easier, graceful ways of connecting with frequencies, working multidimensionally, coming to understand things in a say deeper, because it's inside, expansive, deeper way. And then it's changed again. So, for example, I was called to do an Akashic reading course last year.
Sure.
And really drawn to the teacher and drawn to it. Didn't have any expectations, just felt drawn to that. And in that came huge expansions. And in the being, and there's so many things, you have to invest in your soul's expansion at times, and the egoic human resists that. It's too much money.
Oh, yes.
So it's like, really, is that you really going to dishonor your soul and this growth? This is what you really need, and the expanse of that. So we learn not to get so hung up on the.
Yeah, and do you find you always end up doing it anyway? Like, yes. I'll argue a little bit, but it's like, if I know for sure, I'd just like, I'll just do it because I.
Yes, exactly. And then the gifts that have come from that experience, the expansions of that, and now it's happening through people. So people and being able to do sessions with people and expansions in together, being able to open something up that I may not have experienced on my own again. Oh, yeah. So now it's like, it's not about you, and it's about this unification. It's happening inside for us individually, but it's huge, and it means collectively and in so many multidimensional ways. Yeah. So, having these new, and I'm finding too, which is really funny, courses that were created, I'm really stopping myself from going back to recreate it because there's been a new expansion of understanding. Yep. But that frequency might be of support and assistance to somebody who's just coming to that frequency.
That's a good point. I get the message. I usually just ask for yes or no, and I don't always know why. I don't know why I do half of what I do, honestly. I really don't. This is the direction I express. I do it, what comes through. But thank you. That makes total sense, because I've always gotten just leave it. Like, just keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward. Oh, wonderful.
So, does that sort of answer the question that you were asking? It's just continually unfolding. This is the beauty of it. And there's this, because we are creative beings. I love that you are in a state of great peace, and that's a frequency that was beautiful for me to experience with the Buddha. At this time for me, it's feeling like there's a creation mode. I'm going to create this little package and this little bundle from this frequency, and then it will just continue, little things here and there, Mm-hmm. And yes, I'm just learning to appreciate the now.
Yeah.
And I don't get to see much ahead, which is wonderful, because then the ego would try and go and mess that up. So I don't get to see very much my ascended aspects.
That's living in the flow of your presence, really. I kind of chuckle at the people that want to go see a psychic or something, and I'm like, my job is actually the opposite of because it really is just you be fully here now to bring those frequencies in. You have to be here, not projecting out into the future. Yeah.
So it's just a really exciting time on planet Earth.
Well, wow, isn't it? And I I always share, it's just, there's so much we're doing. I mean, if our poor dear little human could have 1/10 of the awareness of the magnitude of what we're doing, our self-worth or self-esteem, or, because many people I know, myself on this journey, more so years ago, was like, well, what am I even doing? And what even is this? And I love what you said about the concepts before, because at one point Ascension, it was like, what it is and you have no idea until you start walking through it. And then all those dots connect back and you go, oh, that's what that was, or that's what this was. So speaking of dots, you do all these wonderful interviews on this channel. You're like a zillion times more, I'll say, connected in that way than I am, because I worked mainly with one facilitator, William Linville, who was a walk-in 25, 30 years ago, and fully had fully cleared everything 20 plus years ago. So I had this amazing example, which did make it kind of a great, it was a great thing, but made it hard to become a facilitator myself, I'll never be whatever, ready. So you get to interview all these people. And I think I shared when we talked, I didn't have a spiritual background, a religious background. I had a corporate life, married, kids, corporate jobs. Boy, did that change a lot about 10 years ago, and it just was a flash in the pan for me, a super big intensity of a awakening, and which was good, because that, brings about that change very quickly. So you work with all different types of people. Like you have such a wide variety of background, and I'm finding more and more like how beneficial that is, how that really broadens our perspectives and our perceptions, helps to sort of dissolve away the barriers of judgment, opening the bridges between different languages, different systems, different philosophies, while also increasing our discernment of what we want to choose and what we want to play with and where we want to put our consciousness, if it's limited or if it's really expansive. So how has that been for you, and what have you like gained from that?
Well, I'll give you a little background first of all, so that will make sense in a sense. But I used to be in my previous life, I'd say, a journalist working on sort of magazines and magazine programs. So looking for good speakers, first of all, and interesting stories. And the things that propelled me mostly, even though I was deeply unconscious, was stories of deep transformation and stories of that moved people.
Mm.
So whatever these stories were, I get really immersed in that and so enjoy it. And so today, the calling came about maybe 2 years ago now. You could start to do this. No, there's lots of people doing it. I don't want to do it, and they do it better than I do.
Everyone says,
and
there's a million people doing it.
Yeah. No, just leave it to them. They're doing a great job.
Right.
And then, but it just kept on going. So it's for me, and then I'll share with you. I mean, every being has lit up in my awareness before I go to ask. So it's not being a list of, this. It's
not from the mind.
Like, no, it's like, go here. And then one experience right in the beginning was seeing this beautiful woman so lit up, and she was doing these posts on Instagram, and she was creating beautiful cards. And I didn't know her. There was no, and then it just, this pushing, ask. I'd not seen her speak or anything like this, just seen these cards. So I just asked her, would you be interested? I'm beginning this platform and you're sort of lighting up big time in my awareness, so I'm going to trust. And then she said yes, but I still had no idea. And then as we were connecting before the interview, she started to send me just a little clue about her life, in a sense, so that I could get an idea of how to navigate the conversation. And she was it was beautiful. It was beautiful. And then she came and she spoke. And I mean, there was nothing for me to do, like in all of these conversations. It's just a platform, and then all these beautiful sharings, and this light. As you say, it's all everybody in their total connection and sphere of their frequency and light, bringing something really immense and beautiful. And I feel spoiled because I get to experience that too, and I get activated and deeply moved. And after each conversation, my eyes are, there's so much light each time that my eyes are often sort of, I see the outline of every being in their light for hours afterwards. So it's like, it's a deep blessing for me to be able to, I get to ask people to speak, and I get to share them and experience it. It's just a delight. And as you've said before, we're all maybe at different parts of our journey, and we've got nuggets of gold to share with each other.
Yeah.
That's going to assist in some area or another. So there's so much expansion happening. It's such an exciting time. And you're one of those beautiful light beings, you know, and you just lit up in my awareness. And who should I ask?
And I'd gotten the invitation the night before. Are you ready? And then so you're just like, boom, with that. Like, it's so,
I mean, it's just,
that shocked me.
It's a small little community, but it's so appreciated. And so I feel a duty of care there to make sure that it's always in alignment.
Yes.
I trust that light that pings at somebody that I see first, and then, you know, bring them in if it aligns.
And that's what I've found about the new creations, you know. It seemed like hacking down with the sickle, like I was saying, it seemed like if I had known how long this would take, my old self would have said, no, you know, it's just my human mind. It's like, oh, within a year, I'll be reestablished. It was like a decade later. You know, it's like, and these things are built like with care, like one thing at a time. If it's not the right thing, you move it out. And like that foundation you mentioned, even like that energy you felt, that solidness, it's like, I don't know if you experience this the same way with this, the golden activations, but within even the group, I have a group where we meet regularly. And I had this perception that this new stuff I created, it was going to be big, or I don't know, but it's small and little and incremental, one little step at a time. And then adjustments, you're constantly adjusting to make sure that everything is in alignment, like you said. And I had this perception as a facilitator, like that I was going to be doing, you know, okay, 40 sessions a week, 40 hours a week, you know, whatever my old perceptions of work were. But, you know, most of the work happens in here. And then when that's aligned, things unfold out here. And it's these heart connections that are, it's quality, right, over quantity. And but anyway, in this group where we get together, and it's much like that on my website, but it's with this, I'll say the core of folks that I connect with, there's a solid energy field that has been created there. That is like a place to come to. And somehow throughout the weeks, months, and years now, it has somehow been this stabilizing force, like in my life. Have you felt that with your interviews and those connections?
Oh, yes. It's been a process of growth for me personally. So things like in the beginning, I was resisting that call to do it. So there was self-sabotage in the beginning. So there was a crappy mic. My sound was horrendous because I didn't really want people to hear me. Mm-hmm. I didn't think it was worthy of being heard.
Right.
And it was all, you know, I did know better because I used to work in radio programs, creating radio programs, so sound and that frequency. So it was self-sabotage and okay, I have to do it, you know, right at the beginning. And then so there was that process of learning to just honor the frequencies. And also, it's just a container. You get to create a container so that you can amplify others. And what I'm hoping to is that, many of the people that come, they speak on many other platforms too, but that there will be a frequency that is offering something unique in this container. You know,
yes.
that there is something new that might be revealed here that may not have unfolded somewhere else. Or and for me, it's this deep activation every time. So a new perspective, your experience, has so many gifts for me to come to understand and see something very, very differently. Yeah. And so each being has brought this in. I mean, conversations about Lemuria, for example. I remember Lowell Johnson coming to speak about Lemuria. Lemuria is such a huge frequency for me personally. I just I fly so high in loving that frequency, and then he speaks about his experiences and his understanding of that frequency, and he solidifies it in a new way through his experience. And then there are other beings, Cathy, there are immense beings on the planet that would never come forward and be speaking about. They do their work very, very quietly.
Yes.
So they are honored. I'm so also in awe of the lineage of light workers that have come before us as well, and the immensity of their work, their sharings, and the ease and grace that they afford us now to be able to talk, because these conversations are everywhere now. Everywhere. People are really expanding, and you can go everywhere now for great ease to discover these things, which is immense. And so this is a little portal to bring through certain light frequencies and beings that align here and have gifts to share and are willing to share, So I'm always just like, they said yes every time, this is happening.
Yes.
And I get nervous and sweaty, and for me, the only thing I have to do really in the beginning is remember what I need to say at the beginning. But that is so I'm still.
I read from my phone today to read your intro. So, I was like, I don't know how you do this. I'm just going to read it.
No, so sometimes I just write it down and read it. It's okay. Nobody cares. It's just so funny. It's so funny. But I'm always blown away. There's always a teaching, an expanse, a remembrance in every connection, and it's all divinely aligned. Mm-hmm. We get to hear it just at the right time.
Yeah.
So somebody might find this video or your video, whoever's video, 2 years from now. Doesn't matter.
Yeah. We don't know where it's gonna go.
No.
Yeah.
So it's just delightful. I just love being just part of some sort of pinging system in the universe.
Mm-hmm. Do you go to bed at night and go, I'm so lucky, this is my job? Really? I do that sometimes. Best job in the universe,
yes.
Because your background, that's amazing. That given your background, you're perfect. It's so funny how so many things have prepared us for what we ended up doing. And we didn't know the plan, but the plan knew us.
The plan knew us, and it's so interesting because you bring that past and you up-level it into something that's expanding the light now. It's not part of something different. So it's so interesting. So you're building your own corporation. It's your own build.
Yes.
But it's a light corporation now. It's a light build. And I'll share with you an experience just to show as well. A slap I had from my universe years ago, because I was allowing the ego to creep in to try and entice me into a field that I had no business going into. So I'd been working, as a reporter on sort of not hard news, just light these beautiful stories and expansions and things. And then people in my reality would say, oh, you should try for, being in news. Oh, perfect for you. You'd be great in news. And there's this job and you need to try. And then my mother, oh, do it. You've got to do it. And then part of me, I really don't feel that's aligning at all. But okay. So then
the mind goes, maybe these are clues from the universe.
So, so I go and I know there's a girl that leaves the interview. I'm sitting waiting for my turn. And I know this girl who comes out and she's in tears. And I will use the words destroyed. Her ego was destroyed. Okay. Mm. And I say it with love because it was about to happen for me too. And she was just showing me, oh my God, it was awful. It was the worst interview ever. I feel so humiliated. These are the words that she was saying, and she left. So I go in, and there's a table full of like 6 men, and they ask me questions that a proper news person would be able to answer. Somebody who, lives and breathes news and what's happening here, who's warring where, and
somebody
who's the boss of this country,
in the outside world.
Yes, and all of this. So, and I completely obliterate. It was just a destruction of ego in front of my eyes, and there were people there like this on the other side of the table. And it was, I was horrified. I left the experience. I was mortified.
I'm playing the role of your true self right now.
Yes, yes. But it was absolutely necessary. And I did get it at the time. Like I had to take myself into that to get it.
Yeah.
And then a few months later, an opening happened in the same sort of organization, but in the radio side where you got to create radio programs, give ideas and create. It was much more creative. Because I had no bloody business even entering that world.
Right.
And would
you really wouldn't want to have to be in that world.
That's very, very serious, and
we would do terribly.
So it was just perfect. So, yeah, I just felt it because everything is perfect. And these soul slaps are so important. So important.
Oh, yes. I get the universal 2x4. I call it.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yes. It's funny you bring this up. I was pondering that today when I walked right before we got on about these situations I've gone into over the last years, many years, many moves, many jobs, from 22 years at one company to all different like side jobs, gigs, things, and then my website, right? And I was pondering like, okay, so it seems like I've been going back into old scenarios, many different ones. Part of mine was even like my marriage, the divorce 10 years ago was not conscious. It wasn't a conscious uncoupling. It was a both run in opposite directions as fast as you can. Mm-hmm. And so that all came up this year, and I had a lot of talks with my ex-husband. We're friends, like we're pretty good friends now. So we have really become actual friends after, it took a decade, but the last couple of years, it's like that relationship energy has finally cleared, and the old contract stuff, that's just all gone, and we can be parents and friends and whatever. So I was pondering this about going back into these old situations about, do we have to walk through them? I don't have an answer here. Maybe you can chime in, but do I have to walk through them? Because many I would walk into it, and whether it's a day, a week, a month, go, oh, okay. Yeah, I remember this now, right? And like, here's some things I enjoyed from it. It's almost like taking these aspects that I loved from these jobs, for example, like old corporate jobs. I love the people. I love connecting. I love talking to people. I love going to work every day. And you got like the laughter and the joking around and, whether it's customers or whoever you interact with. But then it's like the control, whatever it is, having to put on a facade and pretend you like things you don't like, talk the corporate talk, or whatever.
Yes.
So, we take things away that's like, I want to bring this into keep this kind of stuff in my life, or, keep creating with this and bring more of this in, but a whole bunch of stuff. Nope, not going there anymore. So what do you think about that with these, it's like sometimes I think that walking into it isn't so much a slap as it is, especially if we're working with others. Like I get so much clarity, that I'm like, oh, but then sometimes I go, am I just dense? Am I slow? Did I not need to go back into that? You know what I mean?
I do. I had an interesting experience. There was a time when we were living in South America, and I had to return to Wales to sort a few things out with my mother's home. So I was home. I was back in Wales for a number of weeks, and it was really interesting because, like you, because when we're always changing and elevating and evolving, so everything that I used to maybe do, or the people that I used to connect with, or so now I'm sort of seeing things very differently in this familiar space. It's the same space, yet it's not, because I've changed. So there's different things to be seen. And it was interesting because in all those weeks, I didn't bump into anybody that I knew unless I organized it directly. So then it was like a lesson. So if you organize it directly, you're consciously going into something. You need to be aware of that. And so it's really, really interesting. So for me, the universe is like, oh, yeah, no, you're not bumping into certain people anymore because it's not the same vibrational alignment.
Yep.
So it's the same thing as what you're speaking about. And it is, I love the way that you do it because there's this gentleness about it and there's no judgment there. So you're allowing for an opportunity for something that's higher aligned to materialize. But if it doesn't, then we may wish to step back, and to be kinder with ourselves now, because we get to see it now, but we also, in this expansion, comes a deeper level of compassion, I find, that I didn't hold before for myself or for others. And again, I can speak about it. The feeling may not translate yet. I would hear the words in the past, compassion. Yes, I'm a compassionate person. I'm a nice person. I'm a good person. But I might have been quick to judge or quick to see myself as the victim and somebody else was playing the baddie role, So it's about, I've had many of these soul slaps, and I'll share with you one experience that was really profound for me here in Singapore during the time of the lockdown. And I was going on the bus with my son, and there was a lot of fear frequencies all around. And I had gone on the bus with my son, and there was this element of rebelliousness within me with that. There were very strict rules here, and even to the point of no talking on the bus. No talking on the bus. and this and all of these things. And my son started to speak to me on the bus, and I responded to him on the bus. And then there was a lady behind me, and she poked me in the back, and she was really angry. I couldn't see her mouth because this was all over here, but the anger that came from her because I was breaking the rules. And then it triggered anger in me too, anger about the whole situation, anger about me judging others, thinking that I knew better too. And me wanting to put my son first above and beyond this situation. So it took me time to realize I'd created all of that. And my mentor, Lisa Transcendence Brown, is a wonderful being of light.
Yes.
And I was on a call with her and happened to share this experience. And she opened up another way for me to see this. And that I had chosen to enter into a situation that, I needed to be in control of taking responsibility for going into a frequency on that bus of fear.
Yeah.
But I went in with a kind of a rebellious frequency. I didn't go in with full compassion of feeling the fear and thinking, what's highest aligned and of assistance here. My frequency wasn't in any assistance, and it actually caused more ripples of fear in somebody else.
Right.
And so for me to come into understand the depth of the responsibility that we carry to align our own frequency first. And then if we are experiencing things, I love the way you share though, because it's just you're open to the experience. You didn't go in with a certain frequency. I didn't realize I was in that until I was in it, So that taught me a huge, huge valuable lesson about really taking responsibility and then witnessing and this deep compassion for, look, we are here to show love in each moment, what's highest aligned here.
Yes. Yeah, because that's who we are. I mean, if our truest expression would always be the highest of compassion and love, and that sometimes looks like saying no or something or walking away, but sometimes that's I like to call it the absence of judgment or acceptance, like where you just, COVID's COVID, this is this, masks are masks, yada yada, like it's sort of like that serenity prayer, I'm not religious, but I've always loved that. Like, do I need to change something? Or, then full on acceptance. It's just, and then it's like our energy is just like, that harmoniousness when you just accept everything and everyone. And I find that the compassion, what you're describing as compassion, in that total acceptance, it's like compassion goes into joy because there's nothing wrong with anyone or anything, and then when you get to talk to people, it doesn't matter if they're the homeless person or the CEO, you can chat and laugh with them because they're just perfect as they are, right? As we all are in our own way.
It is because we go through different stages of awakening, and that there's a part for me where there's this greater expanse of understanding and seeing more, but there was judgment there too. There would be judgments because now I get to see things. This person is not awoken. I'm awoken without realizing I was still in separation. It's that So this compassion, going back to Kuan Yin again, it's just like a whole gift of balm for the soul. And as you are saying, it's all perfect because we are these little bubbles creating our own realities, masterly, perfectly designed by us, our souls, to come to whatever experience we need to experience.
Yeah. And I feel those 2x4s that sometimes I get are, I mean, I never lament it or have a problem with it. It's like, oh, look what I did, and it's usually just like a little redirect,
Yes.
it's a little redirect, but with a lot of information then and embodied awareness. I don't want to do that. That's not for me anymore. I'm really done with that. That old thing doesn't work. So it's like really good in that way, how it's kind of, it really integrates that new foundation that we keep building off of.
That's beautiful, Cathy. That's beautiful. Yeah. Yes.
Oh, we're just very blessed beings. So, and I feel blessed that I got to do this tonight. So, is there anything else you would like to share to wrap up as far as what you got going on, or, anything?
Oh, thank you. There are always new courses coming up and offerings and things on my website if people feel called or feel it aligns with them. And there's a new offering recently, and it's called the Heart of Venus Awakening. And it's just part of assisting us to move deeper into this expanded heart that we have, and assisting us to move beyond the human heart, which is a surface heart in a sense, so that we can go much deeper and start that process of excavation and working with the Venusian aspect of us, which is a much bigger ascended heart frequency. So there's many other things too. And if you like hearing decodements of Welsh mythical stories and things, some of those are woven into various courses. There's one, How to Transform Your Frequency, and it comes in sections to assist us to really begin this expansion inside and hold it more, And so there's speak about Arianrhod in greater depth there, and Blodeuwedd, this being created from flowers, this goddess.
Whoa.
And she was in her Gaia body, in a sense, in her light body. And also the Queen of Sheba comes in, and I love how all these expansions come, and Queen of Sheba was a revelation for me, and it's about us discovering our inner garden and cultivating this immense abundance inside of us. So so there's many things there if people feel drawn to take a look, to see. And yes, so for people just to feel free to go and have a look and see if it aligns for them or not. It's all perfect.
Well, and that sounds not just beautiful, but fun too, that you've got these stories woven in. I mean, I think the most important thing kind of for me with a lot of the stuff I create is that I enjoy it, and when you speak of it, you light up. So I already know it's infused with so much joy and lightness. And I'm sure it's beautiful just because the energy that you express, that you share, that you hold or radiate or however, is just so much of the heart. And that is really the core of our connection to who we are and what we came here to do. And it's so gentle and supportive and compassionate as well, so do you have any other things going on that you'd like to share? Are you good?
This feels just perfect. I'm so delighted. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's been beautiful, beautiful. It's my turn next.
Yes. Thank you so much. Well, and thank you everybody then for joining us. I'll wrap this up, seeing as I'm the hostess today. So thank you so much for joining Lois and I. I speak for us both, I'm sure, where we can feel your presence and your energy here, even though you weren't here with us live. Maybe we still are connecting because we're all really dancing together 24/7 in our true forms, our light forms. We've never been separated. So thank you for being here with us. Namaste.